You gotta pick just one. You got 5 seconds.
So there's joints that I do feel like people are sleeping on that I feel like, nah, like sure, y'all can fuck with those other tracks of mine, which I appreciate it because they're all, they're all my tracks, but it's like, there are certain tracks that I feel like people are sleeping on. Like, for instance, with that release I was just speaking on, Black Osteology with me and Scale Beats, there's tracks like Bone Shaking that I performed with a hidden artist on that track. I feel like there's plenty of people that didn't show enough appreciation, in my opinion, to that, because in my opinion, that's one of my favorite songs off of there. That was a very, not only sentimental track, it was a very significant track to me, because number one, it was one of the funnest to make. Like, I was sitting on the phone with that hidden artist who sang the chorus with me. Like, I'm doing a duet with a personal friend of mine that I grew up with and known for close to 2 decades now. And, tracks like that are very important to me, Or, for instance, White Melody's B-side, the intro track, Clayton Bigsby. I really love that track because that track right there, to me, is one of the most powerful tracks I've ever made. But I do understand why a lot of people don't, highlight that track as much, because the track is very, very, very controversial. Very, very controversial. It can almost be offensive, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's certain platforms that I've released the album to that banned that intro track. They took it completely off that album on certain platforms.
You'll have to send it to us because we don't ban nothing.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely send it to you. I'll definitely
send it because we don't ban nothing. If we got this philosophy. If you're gonna take the time to produce it, we're gonna take the time to play it.
Exactly.
We don't care what people think about us, because we've seen it. I've seen everything out in the world. So if you're going to take the time to produce it, we're going to take the time to play it, and we'll deal with the backlash. Who cares?
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah. Look, if you're willing to play that track, you know what I'm saying, I definitely appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? Because I love that track,
Yeah, we've had some pretty
interesting.
Yeah, very controversial tracks and songs that we've played. Like, because we have two stations. We have a hip hop station, and then we have an Adrenaline, which is more rock and that side. And on the rock side, there's a lot.
No, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we're rock.
There's a lot over there.
Yeah. I mean, I still think though, even in comparison to rock, because despite the fact I don't make rock music though, but rock is like my top 3 genres of all time. But so I've listened to plenty of joints that were either banned or super controversial. In my personal opinion, however biased this may sound, I still don't think you've ever had or heard any tracks like this. Like what I say, like when I was seeing that track get banned and all that, like I was a little upset and disappointed, but I couldn't be too mad because I definitely get it. Like,
right. Okay.
I definitely get it. The shit I was saying on there is extremely offensive.
We may have to feature that one and see what people's opinions is on it.
I love that shit.
I'd like to see what people's opinions
I'd love to see that. Yeah, I'd love to see that. Yeah.
Send it over. I may put it in because I edit all of these podcasts. I edit them, and then I'll put in like our commercials, and then I'll put in 2 or 3 of the songs of the artists that we were interviewing. Send it over, and I'll include that song with the edit of this podcast.
Okay, bet.
Yes, and I'll include it.
Yeah, we try to be fair with everybody. I mean, like, when you're on national radio, they're going to ban stuff just because there's certain wordings that the FCC cannot, put out there. But we're not that radio station. Like, we will put just about anything, everything, like, we don't really care because, like, it's a way for people to, like, be creative without having the backlash of the FCC on your back.
Right, without any filters, without any restrictions, you get you get the art in its most rawest, purest intent. Right.
Because you've got the recording studios and like the big name record labels, they're like, oh no, we can't put that out. Oh gosh, what's going to happen if we do that? Yeah. It's art. Yeah. Like, we have freedom of speech. That is something that us in the United States have the ability to, like, do, is have freedom of speech. And if this is what this is your philosophy, your thought, then why not let people listen to what you have to say? They may not agree with it, but it's an opinion. It's everybody's opinion. And if you don't agree with it, fine, move on. Don't, be mad or whatever. Just move on and let it go. And don't listen to them again. If that offends you, then it offends you. But we're not offended because it's your art.
Yeah.
That's real. That's true.
It's like taking somebody's opinion. Like, that's your opinion and something you may have went through. Like, we haven't heard the track yet, but it's something that you went through. It's your point of view on something, and it may open our eyes onto something that we didn't know about. Exactly. Maybe racism, political, something. Like I said, I don't know what the track is about, but it will open our eyes to whatever you're talking about. It'll get us going, well, damn, the guy, we didn't know about this, so... And then we'll start to really think of, I personally think a lot about that stuff. Like, I like to see people's point of view on things. So when I hear a track that's controversial, like you're saying, it gets me thinking about, damn, how many other artists are thinking this, but they won't say it. What happens to the ones that won't say it? They just get shuffled in down there. And
the track in question, like I said, the only platforms that actually decided to keep that track was Apple Music and Spotify, really. And like I said, it's the very first track on.
Okay, now I gotta go look it up.
It's the very first track on White Melody's B-side, and like I said, I definitely get why people would ban that track. The track is extremely extremely racist towards black people, but.
Towards black people?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a twist. You said race, I was thinking it was going to go the other way.
What's the name of the song?
It's called Clayton Bigsby. But see, that's the whole thing, that the name of the track is partly in why my disappointment for the backlash is there, is because I do understand it, the content and how I elaborated on that subject and content was very colorful, I will admit. However, if people know who Clayton Bigsby is, you would.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if you can see the face. That name sounds familiar.
Like, if you knew who, so look, the comedian Dave Chappelle, back in the early 2000s, had a character by the name of Clayton Bigsby.
Yep.
And so the skit that he had was it was the Dateline I think it was the Dateline interviews and stuff. And the Dateline dude, he went and interviewed a notorious white supremacist, but he didn't know that this notorious white supremacist the whole time was a blind black man that lived in the middle of nowhere. And the blind black man, his entire life, didn't even know that he himself was black. So, the track starts off with a soundbite from that skit from the Chappelle show, but the track, I'm Clayton Bigsby, and I'm rapping from the perspective of Clayton Bigsby. However,
so cool.
But however, towards the end of the track, I have a very introspective and retrospective chorus where I say, I hate you niggas, but then I have another voice that says, I hate myself. And then I say, I hate you niggas. And then another voice says, because I hate myself. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm shining light on, there's plenty of black people who are racist towards black people, but only upon the basis of self-hatred. You know what I'm saying? And that's what the whole point of the track was. But, like I said, I will admit I did express it in a very, I guess you could say, colorful and blunt way. But yeah.
But that whole thing right there, like, if that was a true story,
Right.
And, like a blind man not knowing his whole entire life, like if he lived in the backwoods of Mississippi, or Alabama.
That's exactly what he was doing, yeah.
Okay. I figured that's what it was, because I remember, like, Dave Chappelle doing that. And
that's why I was like, I know that name.
And, like when you get that and you're like, okay, so I've lived in the backwoods of Mississippi and I have white people all around me all the time, and I talk like them, and, it's a stigma because if you talk like correct English, it's a wrong thing to do. And you weren't brought up correctly if you don't speak, the way that they expect you to talk. And this man who's blind has no idea that he's been around white people his whole life and they've treated him just the same as they treat each other, you know, and then come to find out that is like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. Right. Like even to like at the end of the track when the beat's fading out, I put in another soundbite from the original skit where the Dateline interviewer had asked one of Clayton Bigsby's friends, he was like, say, why don't you just tell him he's black? And so the friend says, I'm going to be honest with you. At this point, if we were to tell him he was black, he'd probably kill himself. And it'd just be one less nigga around. His commitment at this point is just that deep. We can't even tell him otherwise. We just got to let it rock. You know what I'm saying? And that was the end of the track. You know what I'm saying? That's why I felt like a track like that, it was a very beautiful track to me. And, I even said in the tweet, I was like, yo, I know damn well y'all motherfuckers love that track. Y'all just don't want to say it. Y'all just don't want to say it. And it's like, I get it. I get why y'all don't want to say it, but it's okay. You can say it. I love the track. I made the track,
Right. Yeah, you wouldn't have released it if you didn't love it yourself.
Right. Like, what? I'm going to make that track, and then if you be like, oh, yeah, this was my favorite off the album, I'm going to be like, oh, I can't fuck with you. Like, what?
Right.
So that is poignant. I mean, if we all couldn't see, and we all grew up in different cultures or whatever, like, nobody would know one way or the other what color we were.
Right.
Well, that leads me to a question like this. We're kind of off topic, but it's okay. I actually like this. Do you believe, going to kind of what she's saying, and like if we were blind and couldn't see where we were raised, do you believe that a lot of situations is product of your environment? Like the way people are raised and how they are?
Product of an environment is one of various factors because the current state of the world that we're in, especially socially and individually, which individually is a variable that I cannot account for. That's an X factor that I cannot account for. I can only speak on, from a generalized standpoint of socially and, worldly, so to speak. The current state we're in is a culmination, it's an amalgamation of cause and effect. And you have to understand what those causes were and what those effects were. Are plenty of situations and things and narratives a product of environment? Sure. But a lot of it can really simply be summed up to a lack of proper knowledge and understanding, both of external sources as well as self.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you're kind of on the same track that I kind of believe. I believe a lot of, you are product of your environment, but you have to take responsibility for your self actions. You have to make yourself accountable, regardless of where you came from. I was a trailer park white trash kid, but I'm not that typical kid. I was picked on. I was the only white kid in my school. That's the difference. I was the only white kid from the trailer park trash in Cleveland, Ohio. So I got the opposite of that racist growing up. But I didn't let it affect the way I feel about anybody of any other color. That's where I took the responsibility, saying it's not their fault. That's just how they're raised. That's how they came from.